Yeah, it's
everyone.
right. It seems
Welcome
to be
to
good.
the YouTube
Yeah,
Model
I see it
Builders
too.
Thursday night general hangout.
I see
Thursday's
it
hangouts are
running
for
with
the general
audio, and
discussion on mile
seems to be
railroading
good.
that we all can set a topic to discuss for the night. Thursday's hangouts are the proud sponsor of the Tuesday night presentations, the YouTube Model Builders, EMAG, and the YouTube Model Builders live show. I want to say thanks for everybody joining in tonight's show. And here's your host for the night, Johnny Reb of Southeast Rails. Well, hello everybody. Welcome to YouTube Model Builders Thursday night live show. Well, let's see who we got on the panel tonight. We got Mr. Phil Newcastle, Jason, Mr. Hawks, Andy. Let me get over here to the chat and see what we got going over there. Alrighty. I'm going to have to refresh my screen. I am getting nothing.
Dwight and AJ, Ari McKeever.
Uh-oh, OBS is acting up on me.
How you doing, guys?
What's up, Ty Lord?
Hey. All right. Mr. Tom, this is our first time to meet. How you doing?
Not too bad, man. How you doing?
Oh, not bad. I'm Johnny. I'm the host and the moderator of the show tonight. This is a live show, so we are being recorded.
Tom's a cool guy with an interesting layout going on. I've talked to him a few times before on here. There's some interesting stuff over there. He's got his control panel. You got to see his control panel. It's it's the way we used to do it, and for I have to give him all kinds of credit for how awesome it is, how awesome it looks, how much work it was. But I also have to say that it's the example of why that I would recommend DC for the faint of heart these days, because it is not for the faint of heart.
It's not DC. DC. I am strictly AC.
Oh yeah, okay. AC.
Well, it's basically the same thing.
Well, it's not digital. It's an analog switching circuit.
Yes, it's all analog switches. But I did go digital in one section. Actually, I don't know if I can get a light to show you guys.
If you're you said you're AC, is that mean you're an O gauge or ED?
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. What do you guys do? Do you guys like publish this somewhere or something?
Yeah, on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
YouTube Model Builders on YouTube. We record all our live shows.
Can you guys see those?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a few of them around.
So basically what I did is I set up this inside line here. Oops. So what it does is this logging train will go back and forth and automatically reverse polarity.
Yeah, I saw the video on that.
It's not technically digital. It will work with DC or DCC.
Yeah,
I got it from a guy up in Canada.
And we just had this conversation with Dave Lipke, who's converted scales on us and is doing an ON30 layout, and he's got a small ON18 mining or logging thing that's on a higher line, and we were talking about the shuttle circuit he wants to put there so that it runs to one side, waits for 5 minutes, runs back, waits 5 minutes, that kind of thing. So what circuitry did you use for your shuttle?
Well, it's got a transverser, and a detector, and what you do is you cut the track into 4 sections. So when it gets to the last section, the detector sends to the transverser that it's there, and then it will automatically reverse the polarity and send it back. Now I got the heavy duty, which is 8 amps.
Wow.
And the standard duty is 4 amps. And the only reason I did the 8 amps is because I have 5 amp circuit breakers on every one of my lines. So I went with the 8 amp just in case. It was $75 Canadian, $56 American for the whole setup.
Not bad.
No,
Not at all.
And I don't know. Is there? How do you post? Can you post like text on here or something? So I can post you a link to the website.
Sure. There's a chat over in the bottom left-hand corner. There's a little bubble that pops out. You can click that and then paste us a link to it.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Let me go grab it.
I tell you
And
what.
I tell you, anything you guys want to do, this guy can make you electronics to do it. The guy's amazing.
Yeah.
I've got a question, Johnny.
What's that, Bill?
Has anyone there? I haven't been around for a while, but I was just curious. Has anyone there been using rail links or have anything to do with it?
Not that I know of. No.
That by name. What is rail links again?
Yeah, the infrared system.
Oh, no, I haven't. I used to use some infrared stuff, and I am going to use infrared in my staging yard. But for the most part, short of staging yards, I'm not a fan of infrared. It has some issues out on the open layout, in my opinion. But for staging yards, it's perfect because it gives you can put it at the end of a staging track and not just find out that a train is in a block, but find out that it's right there.
Yeah, is that the old wasn't there an old system like using like a kind of like a TV what's they call it with the TV remotes? I think that's what we have a guy around here that still runs, though he has a DCC system. Half his engines are replaced to DCC, though he has a old system like a long time ago he was using. I think it's infrared, where yeah, I think it's infrared. That's what the TV remotes are. If I'm remember that right, though. The one problem we have there at the layout, if you're trying to slow down a train, if it's in a tunnel, most of the time it's not going to respond. You're not going to actually get it to stop till you're at the end of the tunnel. You're out of the tunnel, and he's modeling Appalachia. B&O, Sam Patch, kind of freelance.
Yeah, that's why you use a repeater inside the tunnel so you don't break your beam anywhere around the track.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing he also said: paint your ceilings white.
Yeah. No, I'm experimenting with it, so I'm going to see how it works.
And we do have a guy who's using an infrared remote, Andrew from Down Under. And, if he's an Andy, he's got to be doing something right. He's using infrared, but he's just using it back to his central control base. And he's still ultimately using track to deliver the signal, but he is using an Arduino or remote control. So it's infrared, and I thought his was pretty interesting, but I remember what you're talking about now. I just hadn't heard of that in, a little while, 20 years.
Well, Digitrax and I believe NCE has infrared systems, but people have tried them. They don't like them because if you're not holding the cab up where it can be seen, it'll lose the signal.
That's another problem.
Then you got to plug back in, reinitialize, which only takes a second. But, everybody around here that I know of, the ones that have tried it, they didn't like it because you can't keep the signal going. So they just went to duplex radio.
That's
radio much better.
That's what the layout down there also has a problem with the remotes too, like that. That's another problem it has with them.
Radio's the ticket, man. Radio solves so many problems, but
Yeah, that's right. Ari just put up a thing. Digitrax quit making them. Still making radio, yeah, because that was Digitrax did quit making them for real because people just weren't liking it.
yeah, they're still supporting their backwards people with. They still have a backwards support for part of that product line because their pedals, UCB pedals or whatever, still have infrared, but I don't think they're selling throttles with that support.
No, they're not selling throttles, but Digitrax is staying backward compatible with their other products that they have. That's one good thing about them.
Absolutely. I'd agree 100% with that statement.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. We got one now. Michael L. here. Hey guys, not to get off the subject, that's okay, Mike. But who's the company that put out good quality HO freight cars that are inexpensive? And while I've got it, check out Scale Models. That's right, isn't it, Andy? Scale Models.
Scale trains?
Yeah, Scale Trains. They got a new kid on the block. They got some nice looking freight cars. They are kits. You do have to kind of put them together. You know, put trucks and couplers. And they run about $13.95, I think, for those. And,
yeah, they were giving these away at the NMRA. I've never even opened a box because it's not by era, but they are one of the few companies that's making a. You know, it's a kit. I mean, it's a separate, like you used to get with the bottom, and a separate, shell. You know, it's got molded on details and everything. But this is a good looking kit, genuine deal kit. Hey, it's got good looking trucks. I'm going to use those out of it. I'm going to scavenge my parts of it. And here's an interesting fact about this kit. I'm glad I opened this then. It comes with a KD compatible coupler that looks like a 158 or something. It's not KD, but it looks like a KD. But no glad hands. I cut those off, all of my couplers. I cut that little arc off, which KD hates that I do that. But me and Miles talked about that once because they went to so much work to put those on there and make it work, but they cut the glad hands off these things. That's awesome. But they're not whisker couplers. They're still worth scavenging out of the box. This is a good looking kit for $13, but it's not by era, so.
Yeah, well, I hope that little tidbit helped you out there, Michael.
AccuRail, also, you got to give AccuRail credit. They do make a lot of stuff in my era. They just, unfortunately, everything's molded on grab irons. But for most people, that's fine. And AccuRail makes really good-looking kits at a very affordable price. They have been called the Athered Blue Box of our generation now. So both of those are good. Both of those are relatively affordable. They are, and they're kits. So.
I have a few of those.
Good
Actually,
stuff.
quite a few of them.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll say about them is definitely put different wheels on them. And
they come with plastic?
Yeah, they come with plastic wheels, but they're bad. They're really bad, and their trucks aren't that great either. But the bodies are acceptable if you're into, like, say, molded on handrails and stuff. I've got some coal hoppers and some like grain hoppers and a few of the box cars. But yeah, the trucks and wheels are bad on them. You should replace them.
And that's a bit of money to consider changing too, but still, I mean, when you're saying an AccuRail's $12-13, you buy a set of wheels, it's going to cost you $2 or $3 more. You're still $16-17 into it, maybe 20 if you have to put trucks and everything and a little bit of weight. And I'm paying 40 and 45 for about every piece of rolling stock I have.
Right.
The cheapest cars I bought are because I bought 6-packs of differentiated numbers, and I ended up with $25 a car in those. Those are the cheapest cars. So I get everybody's argument with the hobby being expensive. It is. It's always been, and it's even more so. The one thing I'll say about price is that I think there are ways to also save money in other areas if you're willing to trade your time or your energy in learning something to scratch build or head lay track, or there's a whole host of ways to save money. But freight cars is not one of those ways.
I want to say hey to Hanson Trains. He just now got back. He's been incognito for a little while. How you doing, Hanson? Back on lunch break again, I guess. The last time I saw him in here, he's on lunch break. Had to leave early. How you doing, Chris? Nope.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Just testing out my new birthday present. Check it out.
Yeah. All right.
I can walk around when I talk to you now.
Yeah, hopefully you'll have better luck at charging that than I do.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
what kind do you have?
My same thing.
Okay.
Same thing. Well, not these I got on. These are just Audio Technicas I use for the shows. But yeah, I got the same one. See.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Logitechs, man. Everybody's got them, and they're good. But boy, benchwork looks good behind you, brother. It's nice to see people making progress.
Yeah, finally. Hey, I got just a little add-on to what Andy was saying. Is it is either time or money. I don't know how many guys get Model Railroader, but if you read the last page of this month's Model Railroader, I think it was this month's, that's pretty much exactly what he says. You pay $30, $40 for a freight car, or you can spend all that time, buy a cheap car, and time you add all the details and everything, it's time or it's money. Take your pick. And if you don't have the money, well, I guess it's going to be time, but Yeah.
And you're going to pay one way or the other, but what I like is that we get the option of, I spend my money on the freight cars because that's not what I say that, but I got a bunch of Finero and Carmelego resin kits to build too, but I've mostly been buying rolling stock with separate grabs, good wheel sets, etc., that are ready to run well detailed. And then spending my time on things like track work and other things and structures, massively modifying structures. I save money over there, and then I save money on the freight cars. Although I may at a chisel bit and shaving the grabs off like I used to. That's not hard.
Well, if you look at today's society, even with everybody out there protesting for $15 an hour for McDonald's and whatnot, okay, you take that $15 an hour for your time, and then add $15 for the freight car you buy, and probably $10 worth of details to make it anywhere close to that ready to roll freight car you just paid $30 for. I mean, it's not a bad deal if you consider your time is money. I mean, you open the box, you set it on the layout, it's ready to go unless you want to weather it.
And the stuff,
and it's more detailed than you can probably do.
Yeah, it lets you focus on the stuff you enjoy doing or get pleasure from.
Right.
If you
now you can spend your time scenery, do scenery or bench work or track work or buildings rather than spending it on freight cars.
Absolutely.
It's all relative.
I got one here since we were talking about the freight cars and time and money. South Brooklyn Railroad has come up here.
I heard of that guy before.
Yeah, we've heard about him a time or two, but
I have.
Yeah, shouldn't you always change the wheels from plastic to steel wheels in trucks? Just asking.
At least wheels, without question. And if you run really short equipment or something, it's not as big a deal. Not short cars, but short trains. It's not as big a deal to use wheels or trucks that aren't too good. But you really want very free rolling trucks if you have extensive grades or curves or sharp curves, or if you're going to run relatively long trades. Very free rolling trucks are absolutely critical to my layouts operation because I run 25 car trades on 2.2% grades. I can't have a truck that hangs. That will shut down. I stop a train dead in the tracks. But metal wheel sets, no question, absolute must. Plastic ones just track the layout up, and it makes the tracks impossible to keep clean.
Yeah, well, Wednesday night I found something else that'll stop train dead in its tracks. That's a
Well, what was
misaligned
that?
bridge.
What was it?
Misaligned bridge.
Well, you know, it's one of those things, again, it depends on what you do with your layout. If you have a small layout and it's only you and you run your trains around in circles a little bit, you know, and just have fun with them, plastic's probably fine. But if you're going to do any serious operations or, like Andy said, long trains, you know, want dependable running and cleaner track, it's definitely worth going to the metal.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, the worst
Andy?
thing in the world, this hobby can be so enjoyable, but the best way to find yourself sitting in the living room watching the tube instead of in your trade room is to not be able to keep the track clean or for things to derail or not run well. That's why I preach a few things. Good track work, for doggone sure. This should be one of your first few purchases.
In MR gauge.
Yeah, and I preach things like those current keepers or the capacitors to help you keep trains running over dirty track and to find a good technique for cleaning track, because this hobby can be all kinds of fun. But one surefire way to make it not fun is if trains derail all the time or won't run.
Well, Andy, you mentioned something about trucks and wheels. When I was looking for trucks and wheels, there's so many of them. How do you know which one to take?
Well, the internet's a beautiful thing when it comes to that. You can read some reviews. I also give some credit to Model Railroad Hobbyists. What's Neat This Week with Ken Patterson on YouTube, free 30-minute video every month. That everybody should watch that. But he did a few months ago. He did a series on replacing trucks, even on brass equipment. He had $200 freight cars, $250 freight cars, and he put plastic wheel sets under them and got, very, very free rolling equipment. Cato is one of them that is well regarded. There's also a tool that was shown in one of the hangouts here, a hangout that Big Bill put on. I was on it, but it wasn't my tool. It was one of the other fellas on there. Is that it right there? Is that the little shaving thing? Yeah,
the
that
reamer.
ticket right there.
Which one?
And tell her about that, Phil.
Jason.
Oh, Jason, I'm sorry. Thought I said it bench working. I thought that was. No, it's Phil. That's Phil. Tell him about that tool.
That's me.
Oh, okay. Well, I looked down. I saw
Oh,
Jason
there.
holding one up, too.
Sorry. Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah, after that
Okay.
show, a bunch of people went and bought them because makes sense.
What is that?
It is it's called HO Truck Tuner. It's called a truck tuner. It's part number 2838 if you want it in HO. I got it from Micro Mart.
Basically a needle file, right?
What does it do?
Well, you put this in your truck. I don't know if you can see this picture. But you put it in your truck and you just give it one turn. And what it has is the two pointy ends. And it's shaved like a drill bit, except for they're super sharp. And when you give it a turn, it takes all the burrs and stuff out of the inside of them plastic trucks and makes them smooth, so that when you put a wheel set in there and you give it a spin with your finger, it'll just sit there and spin and spin and spin and spin and spin.
Very nice. How many of you guys use the Intermountain steel wheels?
I do, and I love them. That's the only thing I'll use anymore.
I
Yeah.
use Intermountain CB scales. I like those just fine. Also, Cajun has CB scales, but I also just ordered some off eBay last week from a new company that are CB scale wheel sets that I really like. I tried the true Proto 87 wheel sets, and if I was building a diorama with a caboose setting on it, I would use them. They're gorgeous, but I build okay track work, but I cannot build track work that'll make those Proto 87 true to scale wheel sets stay on the track reliably. So I use CB scales. They're not as big and gaudy and pizza cutter-ish, to use Johnny's term, as the RP25s. I think RP25s are fine if you're going to run your equipment on anybody else's, other people's layouts that have poor track work. If you do okay track work, relatively level track work, also if you'll use equalized trucks, every truck on every piece of equipment I have so far is an equalized truck. That means it can twist and allowing it to, to keep the, man, there you are. Like Jason's showing, they equalize.
I got some of that on my older stuff.
They make all the difference in the world. If you want to do things close to scale, RP25 and the standards from the NMRA are great. Absolutely great. They give us a minimum, minimum or a lowest common denominator to make things reliably run. But if you want things to be finer detailed and closer to prototypical accuracy, you've got to go a step further, and that means better quality track work, tighter flanges, smaller gauge wheel sets, et cetera, et cetera. But it's finicky. And for the average kid setting it up on his dining room table, once a month or under the Christmas tree, that doesn't make sense. But if you're going to be serious about a layout, if your track work is good, semi-scale wheel sets look exceptional and look exceptional, absolutely exceptional. They give you the same quality of run.
All right, before we get too far, I want to get a couple comments out here real quick. Newcastle, he's got up here. Come on. Everybody start posting. I can't read this stuff. If I made my own rail board or
blue rail.
Yeah, all right. Blue rail board or some other board, could I use the app from Blue Rail Trains and Sounds? Does anybody have an opinion on that?
What do you mean? Say that again.
The Bluetooth board.
Yeah.
Or Adreno, or what I'm looking at now is Adreno. What were you talking about last night or the night before?
Arduino boards are good for control, but great thing about let's not go too far off Arduino. It's a real dedicated topic, but Arduino's great if the community has already built stuff for it, like the accessory decoder board or the DCC base station. If you want to do something custom with it, you absolutely can. But you're gonna, it's a deep dive. You're gonna have to get serious. I'm really fascinated with where Blue Rails is going, and I talked to those guys at the NMRA National in Indy this year. And he's a serious railroader. His aspiration is to have a serious product that us guys with decent railroads that run a lot of trains could possibly use, but it's not there yet.
I really want to see those boards. I really want to see that product, the Blue Rail. I think it would be the best thing for my layout.
Might be, and I think there's a lot of people out there that it is the right product for. Just unfortunately, it's just not large enough for me, because there's so many things it still can't do, and sound is a critical one. Sound is difficult with the Blue Rail board. They're working on it.
Yeah. Last I heard, I saw on line they're making it like a DCC sound decoder compatible or something. They were trying to do, like actually have it command the soundboard.
Yeah, they're working on ways to deal with that. My biggest problem with that is that it is a complete replacement to what they're doing with to what is happening in the normal decoder space. The wireless system that I absolutely love, and I absolutely, as I start replacing decoders in my Broadway Limited locomotives, which I am going to do, as unfortunate as that is, spend $500 on a locomotive and still rip the decoder out, but I'm going to. When I do that, I'm going to put Russell's from Tam Valley, the guy from Tam Valley, put his wireless DCC system in, because it sends the signals wirelessly, but you use your existing DCC system, NCE Digitrax, or the thing I built, and then you put it in line between your tracks or your batteries and your regular decoder. So you could use a regular lock sound decoder or TCS decoder or whatever with sound, and use all the features that come with that. Nobody should want to reinvent the wheel at this point and try to beat lock sound at the game of sound or TCS. They're both exceptional at sound. And all it does is transmit the signal wirelessly, which means you can do one or two things. You can either light the track up with 15 volts and still use it for block detection, which is what I'm going to do, or you can throw two batteries in your locomotive and charge them every now and then.
Yeah. Also, on the in the group, not on the YouTube link though, the messenger. I put a link up there.
Yeah, I just looked at that.
That's a guy built his own blue rail board for O gauge.
Yep.
The Bluetooth boards. He said we don't know when it's going to come out. Though he's planning on releasing one of these days a blue rail AC O gauge board. Remember, I'm a O gauge high railer.
Yep, and that's using the pickaxe, which is the board that Barry went over a couple months ago on here, which I think is a great board.
I got a couple other comments here. SCJ Railroad, SCJ. I've heard about putting transmission fluid on the track to act as an electrolyte. Any advice on this? Now, hang on before you start commenting. AJ, back in the day, there was talk of using wall. I think you did spell that right, AJ. Clipper oil on the rails. Let's see, I think there's one more here. Yeah, Dwight said Andy and I use graphite on our rails. My comment on that is we do not use oil whatsoever at the store. We had one guy there that did, and all it did was cause us tremendous problems. He used an oil that was supposedly manufactured to go on the rail. It does not work. People do use the transmission fluid. The thing of it is there, you put transmission fluid on, doesn't matter how light you put it on there, you still got dust, dirt, and grit that it will collect and build up. You still got to clean your track and wheels.
It also eats paint. So if you paint your rails, it eats the paint.
And we just don't do it. We just use alcohol, clean our rails with. I got a new line on the store layout that I just got running this Wednesday night. Has not been ran or used since we built the layout. And it's dirty. I had to get up there and start cleaning it with alcohol. I was running engines, cleaned the wheels on real good. So they picked the dirt up too and then re-clean them again. And I finally got it to where an engine would run. It's 2 reverse loops with a straight in between. And got it to where it's running really decent now with no trouble. So, I mean, my opinion is if it's oily, don't do it. I'm a big believer in just alcohol. Clean it off with that and be done with it. You'll leave less residue on the rail. As long as you got clean track, clean wheels, you got good connectivity.
Wheels are the biggest thing.
What's that, Chris?
I was just going to say there again, it's, try it, see if you like it. Don't be afraid to undo it if you want. But, this is one of those subjects that can be argued all day long. Everybody's got a different opinion. But, I can tell you from my personal experience, the only things I've really ever tried was not cleaning my track, and that worked great for like 5 years. I never put anything on it, not even alcohol.
Wow.
Then a club I belong to, I brought a couple of my locomotives down there. They used the Aerocar track cleaner, Aerocar brand. They make different things like gear lube and oil motor bearing lube and stuff. You can buy a 3-pack. Well, they sell a bottle of what they call track cleaner. Well, that works great for a very short time, and then it causes you nothing but grief. After 5 years of running my layout without ever cleaning it, I brought those locomotives home from the club one night, and 2 weeks later, after running them there, 2 weeks later, my layout wouldn't run. Those things got jerky. I ended up cleaning everything with alcohol, and everything was fine. And since then, I've always cleaned with alcohol, but I call that Aerocar cleaner track crack, because once you use it, you got to keep using it. If you use it if you're willing to clean your track every session with it, it's great. If you let it sit for a month, things start going bad in a hurry. So if you don't mind using it all the time, it works great. But I think the same would probably hold true for any of those oils, transmission fluid. I don't know how many of you guys play musical instruments, but the smell of that aero car cleaner is exactly like valve oil for a trumpet or a trombone. So I wonder if that's what the stuff is, but some kind of oil-based thing. But I've just learned to use alcohol if and when I have trouble, and other than that, I just run my track dry, and it seems to be the best bet. But
Do you remember what Norm did, Johnny?
Who?
Norm
No, I don't.
Well, when he was there, he runs on the bottom of so those track cleaning cars are fine, I guess. But what we used to get years ago was a cheap car, and actually we used to make them, but you could buy it back then. So you take a box car, strap a block of Masonite to it with some, spray glue, and stick a piece of foam to it, or even just straight Masonite. But I want to stick a piece of foam rubber to it. I got a piece of foam rubber for it. Soak it in alcohol, run it around the layout. And there's a few other people I've seen that are doing a combination of cars. So they have a dry car, wet car, dry car. So it cleans up after itself.
Don't tell your wife that; she'll make you buy 20. Cleans up after itself.
When I'm going to build a trade I've got an old SW1200 or something switcher I've had for a long time that I'm going to take the shell off from and put a decoder in. I'm not even going to put the shell back on it. It doesn't need to be pretty. Just stick it at the back of a staging track. And when I want to clean the layout, I'm going to have a JMRI operation to where it just goes out on the layout, runs every track, gets to this on the yard, goes back and forth, up and down all four of the tracks, throw the turnouts, and then carries on. It's easy to automate with JMRI warrants, but I'm going to have a series of cars. And then also Ralph has an entire trade built, including a vac car. He took a car from one of those little computer keyboard vacuum cleaners, and took it apart, took styrene and built a duct and vacs up behind his cleaning process, and he ballasted it, shakes loose. But Norm Stitzel down in Atlanta, down in Johnny's neck of the woods, me and Johnny went out to visit him. He runs one of those little pads under every caboose on his layout all the time. So it puts a little drag on all the trades to keep the trade stretched, which is not a bad idea. And it's constantly cleaning the track. So he very, very rarely ever has to do a serious or wet cleaning process. I just can't get excited about how that pad looks hanging under the caboose. But they do make a little contraption or a set of little wire contraptions that hang under the trucks and put a small little pad over there that's worth considering. But I'm just going to put a trade together, a dedicated track cleaning trade, and run it every now and then.
Yeah, for me, I use a magic eraser. I use it and just a track eraser. Lionel makes one. You can get a different thing. So I go over the switches with the track erasers, the ones I can reach. Everything else is, and then occasionally go over that with the just regular magic eraser thing with the rubbing alcohol on it. Though I also have a train car, and we also have one at the club. We do the same thing at the club on the HO layouts. We cut it down thin enough to put it under a train car. We hold it by rubber bands and some weights on it, and then we have an engine pull it around.
Okay.
And that's what I use.
Also, Ralph Rossetti, Andy, don't forget the stainless steel washer to hone the track so dirt doesn't collect. That was a good idea too. And while I've got the mic, let me get back up here. We got a couple of other good ones here. All right. I'll tell you what. Here's Michael. He addressed this more to Andy, but Chris, I think this is up your alley too here. Michael said, Andy, I have a coal hauling railroad. I'm pulling 80 cars. Now you got Andy drooling.
I got it.
with helpers in the middle and at the end. How do I program my locos to the same speed? Okay,
that is a great Chris question. While a lot of people have talked about speed matching, Chris has done the best explanation of using an Track speedometer to get them perfect. So let him talk about how to match those, and that's what you would want to do.
Yeah, he's gone to get it.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so this is my Track speedometer. It's the older version. They make a new version 2 now. It's about $60 to $70, probably the best money you're going to spend in model railroading if you do a lot of consisting. So
Yeah.
basically, if you just turn it on and wait for it to warm up for about 10 seconds, you can set it down over the track, and when your train passes through,
Now it's
there we go. It just tells you in scale miles per hour how fast it goes. So using the more complicated way is using JMRI. You can set every one of the 28 speed steps to a certain table that you create. Simple way to do it is to match a 3-point speed matching, which is your low, mid, and high, same as CV's 2, 6, and 5. So you could do like speed step. Let's say you want 3 miles an hour for speed step 1. You can set all your locomotives so they go 3 miles an hour speed step 1. Speed step 14 would be halfway out of the 28 speed steps. So you could set that one at, let's say, 25 miles an hour. If you wanted 50 miles an hour to be your top end, then you set CV5 to be 50 miles an hour. So as long as you set every one of your locomotives, the ones in between them pretty much line up automatically. So think of a three-point scale with start, mid, and max, with the max being the highest. Draw a straight line from those 3 points. Well, as you move that middle point up and down, everything else in between lines up automatically. So I've had real good luck just with a 3-point speed matching, but when I have time, because I'm doing the same thing, I'm going to be running 80 to 120 car trains, it's a little more critical. So I literally have a table. Let me get a copy of it here.
I use the more the more option scale because I like my slowest speed steps to be very close together, so I could line my steam locomotives under the water spout and stuff like that. So I use it so I can pull the first 6 or 8 steps.
I don't know if you can read this or not. Might be kind of hard, but
yeah, it's a little difficult. But I mean,
basically, what it is from left to right is the 28 speed steps in the kind of orange band, and underneath it in the blue band are the miles per hour I want it to be at that speed step.
Yep.
Then each of these grid lines below it is just for a locomotive, and I record the forward and the reverse speed because sometimes they're a little bit different.
Yeah.
So as I speed match them and I know what they were, I just write it in here by hand, like this down here. And someday when I get time, when I have time, I just go sit down at the computer and punch them in on the computer and save the file. But this is kind of my log of what speed match to what, because I'm actually changing my speed matching scheme, if you will. I used to have 56 miles per hour as my top speed. And the reason I did that is using the NCE system that I do. On your throttle, you can quickly change from 28 speed steps to 128 speed steps. Well, 28 matches exactly what you can program in your decoder. There's 28 steps you can program in your decoder. So to give my operators an idea how fast they're going, I decided, well, if I make 56 is 28 times 2. So if I make 2 miles per hour for every speed step, my operators would actually know how fast they're going. So if they're like on speed step 14, just multiply it by 2. You're doing 28 miles an hour.
Yeah, I love that you did that. That's awesome.
If I'm at speed step 20, I know I'm going 40 miles an hour,
Chris?
But, yes?
As a beginner, I'm going to have a lot of the, what do you call it, consists there, where you have 2 locomotives. But everything you're talking about is way over my head. So how does one get started?
Well, the first thing to do is just buy one of those speedometers. I mean, there's a simple way you can do it, but it's extremely time consuming.
Yeah, JMRI supports it, but it's tricky.
Well, you can do what's called basically eyeball speed matching. You can take one locomotive that you like the way it runs, and you call that your golden locomotive, okay? And then using just a combination of CV2, which is your start voltage, or your lowest speed, basically, where the locomotive will start to move. CV6, which is your midpoint voltage, and CV5, which is your maximum voltage. Go back to that 3-point speed table I was telling you about. And what you have to do is using a combination of those 3 CVs, just get every other, run them side by side and keep adjusting those 3 CVs until the 2 locomotives run basically the same speed. But you can spend hours matching one locomotive to the other.
Yeah, you better
Like I
believe
say,
it.
you take that one locomotive that you like and you call it your golden locomotive, and you match everything else to that one locomotive. But it's extremely time consuming, and at the bare minimum, you have to know how to program CVs 2, 5, and 6. If
Oh,
you
yeah.
can't do
Camera
that,
makes it easier. Dakota Pro
If you-
makes it easier, but you've got to put your locomotives a foot apart on a track and just tweak and tweak and tweak until they run down the track.
but if you can't at least adjust CVs 2, 5, and 6, then if that's over your head, then there's really no way to do it. So that's where you have to actually start.
That's essential if you
Okay.
want a contest.
What's a CV and where do you find it?
I tell you what, Hawks. It may help you if you go watch on our channel on YouTube. Pick the playlist JMRI and start at the beginning of that.
Well, he
Okay.
did one on speed match specifically.
Yeah, but-
well, let me back up the bus a minute. You are using DCC, right?
Yeah, I'm using DCC with NCE, but I'm not ready to touch GMRI for at least 2 to 3 years.
No,
so-
you need to get
Right, but
Dakota
you don't
Pro.
need- You don't need to touch JMRI if you have an NCE system. It's easy to program right through your cab. But you have to learn those basics first before you can do anything else. So it's about as simple as changing the address. It's just that you're changing something else instead of the address. So if you can change an address on your locomotives, that's a CV.
Oh, okay. So that I've done. Yes.
So everything in a decoder is programmed through what they call CVs or what is it? Something variable, configuration variable.
Configuration variable. Yeah.
So basically, it's telling if I put a value of 2 in a CV, it does a certain thing. If I change the value, it does something else. So it's kind of like instructions, like a telephone dial. Okay, if I hit 1, it does something. If I hit 2, it does something else. So you're basically telling the decoder to remember that number and do that every time I hit a certain button.
And
I mean,
some
that's
of the CVs are really tricky. There's some indexing for that. But what I've told a whole lot of people is I love JMRI for all kinds of things it does. But if all you use is Dakota Pro, you're getting your money's worth. And I would heavily encourage anyone to hook it up as early as possible, if for nothing else, to just use Dakota Pro, because boy, it makes life a lot better. I think so anyway. That's 5 2 cents on it.
Right. But
Read
just
Read
as a-
your NCE manual.
yes, absolutely.
You mean past the second page?
But
I
they,
thought there was a rule, some kind of rule amongst me about not reading instructions, but I'll give you guys a pass this time. Just this time.
but I'm just going to use one example that'll help you get started, and let's call it CV. CV2 is what it is, and there's every decoder has a different amount of CVs, but what they are is generally dictated by NMRA standards. So CV2 on a Digitrax decoder will always do the same thing as it does on an NCE decoder, as it does on any other brand that's NMRA, following the NMRA standards. But what CV number 2 does is it tells the decoder how much voltage to apply to your locomotive at speed step 1.
Yeah.
So if you hit speed step 1 and your locomotive doesn't move, it doesn't have enough voltage. So you can actually increase the value of CV2 up until the point where that locomotive just starts to move when you hit speed step 1 on your throttle.
And there are some differences in manufacturers of decoders, but I would say that the biggest difference is in generation. If you go back and get a decoder from 10 years ago, its support for all the CVs and the same standards can be a little finicky, whereas these days they've got really good about being the same across manufacturers.
Yeah, because most of them are using the NMRA standards too now to standardize all the CVs. And like Chris was talking about, I do know a lot of people, and some of them here in our discussions over the past couple of years, what they like to do with CV2 is adjust it to where you have just enough voltage that when they first hit the first notch on the controller, it actually starts the engine. It goes through a startup sequence on the sound card. And then when they hit notch 2, they'll have that set so it's got just enough voltage for the loco to start actually moving. A lot of them like doing that, just be a little more prototypical.
I have a function key for startup and shutdown sequences. So I hit that function key by locomotive, especially since the Steve go through the startup, bring up the dynamometer, bring up air compressor, everything, and I'll hit that button to give it 10 or 20 seconds to fire up, and then I'll bring it up to step 1.
Yeah, Chris is going to do another show and tell here.
Yeah, I'll show you real quick how to program with NCE. I'm just going to switch cameras because it'll probably focus better. So I just fired up the layout so I can turn that on for you.
Hey, Paul, there's a link over on the G Plus community post for this. There is still one opening in the panel, and there is a link for how to join.
By the way, Chris, are you N scale or HO?
I'm HO.
Yeah.
I just got to switch cameras on my settings. There we go. Let's see what we got here.
What's that brown stuff on your nose? I can see it now.
The what?
There you
Okay,
go.
that focuses better. So if I'm going to change the CV on a locomotive, I'm going to just get behind this. Tell me if it goes out of focus. I'm going to have to back out a little first.
Yeah,
but
okay.
there's a button down here that you hit for program. And the first thing it's going to tell you is program on the main. So we'll just accept that. And I'll hit enter. Now it's asking me which locomotive I want to program. Now I'm just going to put in a bogus number right now, so I don't actually program any of my locomotives. We'll call it number 3333.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's asking me, what do I want to program? I should hit 1 if I want to program an address. I should hit 2 if I want to program an individual CV. I hit 3 if I want to do the configuration, which is CV29. But all you do is hit number 2.
Okay, I never went further than 1.
Okay. So when I hit 2, now it's asking me which CV do I want to program. Well, that just happens to be number 2 also, because that's what we were talking about.
Yeah.
So I hit enter. Now it's just asking me what I want for a value. Well, if you don't know the value to start with, you're just going to have to guess, and that's where a programming track or JMRI helps. But I'm just going to say, for grins, I'm going to say 20. So I hit 20, enter. It just wrote that to my decoder. Now it's allowing me to do it again if I want, or I can just exit out and test my locomotive. So let's say I went and tested the locomotive right now, and it didn't move. Well, then what I want to do is I want to increase the value. So I would just do the same thing. Which CV do I want to program? Number 2. Hit enter. What value do I want to give it? See, now it knows that 20 was the last value, so now it's actually in there. So I'm going to jump it up to a 40. Or what did I hit? 49. Enter. So now it just wrote it to the decoder. Now I test, and it's like, oh, not only does it run, but it's running way too fast at speed step 1. So I could bring it down a little. So same thing again. CV2, enter. What do I want for value? Let's try 37. Enter. And now I test it, and oh, that's pretty good. And if it was maybe just a hair slower, a hair faster, I could add a little bit or subtract a little bit. Now, the beauty of JMRI that everybody talks about is you can actually read and see right on your computer screen what all these values are all at once. If I'm actually going to do something. I'm going to put a locomotive on the track at the moment here.
Okay, in the meantime, Chris, that machine you were talking about, that speed meter?
Yep. Speedometer, yeah.
Speedometer. So basically that will make sure that the numbers are identical? Well, I
No.
mean, the speed is identical, so you're going to be able to move up the CV or bring it down so that the speed is matched, right?
Right.
So it makes it
tells me
easier.
what. Yeah, it tells me what speed that's actually going in HO scale. So if I
Okay.
adjust it until all my locomotives always go the same speed at the same speed step, then I know they're going to run perfect.
Okay.
So what I did here now is I actually just put a locomotive on my programming track. So now I can do program. I don't want to program on the main. So I just keep hitting this button. Here it goes. Now it says use program track.
Mm-hmm.
So I hit enter. Now it gives me basically the same screen. Do I want to program standard to CV? So I'm going to just hit 2 for CV. And now it's asking me what CV do I want to program, and I'll hit number 2 and enter. Now the difference is it's actually, you see where it said wait?
Mm-hmm.
Now it just came back. It actually came back and read that decoder for me. And notice it says 0. That's because there was no value in it before, or it was set at 0. There's a brand new decoder I just put in and I haven't set on this one yet. That's the default setting. So I'm going to put a value of 20 in there and hit enter. And now that value should be in there. So to prove it, I just escape out of there. I'm going to go back in and do the same thing. Program on the main. Nope. Some clock. There you go. Use programming track. Enter. 2. Uh-oh. I hit the wrong button. There we go. Which CV number do I want to do? Number 2. And I hit enter. It should read back 20 for me now. Wait, it's reading the decoder. There it goes, 20.
Mm-hmm.
So you can literally read what the value of any CV in your decoder is. And the whole trick to that is you need the instruction manual for a decoder to know what decoders it has, what CVs it has, and what values you can program into those CVs. So it's just kind of, you got to have that little manual or you're just guessing. But if you ever want to know what the value is, you can always read it in by using programming track.
Okay. Do you keep the same speed for all your locomotives? They're all identical. They're all the same speed, right?
Yeah. Actually, right now they're half and half because I changed. Remember, I was telling you I 2 miles per hour per speed step. Well, I found that the low end was too fast for me that way. So I've actually came up with a new scheme where the first 12 speed steps only increases 1 mile per hour per speed step. And then after that, it's 2 miles for each speed step. So unfortunately, the guy is not going to know for sure how fast he's going using his throttle, but that's not that big a deal.
Okay.
That was just something cool I thought, would work.
Okay, so therefore you could use any, let's say, 2 locomotives or any 3 locomotives for consist, right?
Right. I can mix and match any of mine because I have them all set to run the same.
Oh, that's good.
When I get done rematching to the new one. If we, let me grab the computer and move over where I've got a bunch of them, see if I can get it to reach that far.
Well, while you're doing that, Professor, how you doing? It's got a comment here. Just watch as someone doesn't massively increase CV2, then complains that the jackrabbit start between speed step 0 and speed step 1 is too extreme a change.
Yeah, there's actually something you have to watch out for. And remember, I was talking earlier about speed steps 5 and 6 also. Well, speed step 6 is the midpoint CV, so how fast it goes at half throttle versus full throttle. You can't have speed step 2 have a higher value than, or CV2 have a higher value than CV6, which is the midpoint. And you can't have a higher value in CV6 than you have in CV5, which is the highest. I know those are kind of confusing listing of the numbers, but just think of it this way. a slower speed step can never have a higher number than any speed step after it. That's supposed to be a higher number.
Makes sense.
So some guys occasionally do that. They go and program the value in CV2 might be 20. The value in CV14 might be 150. Let me back. The value in CV6, which is midpoint, might be 150. But if they go and program 2 to be 170, well, that's more than 150. Then your decoder is going to do weird things. It might jump to, well, it's going to jump because it's a lot of voltage, but it might not work at all. It might act really weird. You just never know. You can get unpredictable results. So I always think of it as out of the 28 speed steps, whatever the value is you have, the slower one can't have a higher value than the one next to it. That's supposed to be higher, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm explaining that real well, but
I'm getting it.
okay. So here's if you see there's 4 locomotives and 4 locomotives.
Mhm.
Actually, there's 4 sets of 2. Those are my helper sets for my mid-train helpers. So if I take these 2 right here, those are consisted together right now. So I'll select that one. And you see that they run together. And just throw some switches. And they actually run together quite well. And if I take the set behind it,
Don't forget your turnouts.
yeah, these also run quite well together. All of them do. But I can literally now connect all 4 of them, set up an old style consist, which is basically consisting the 2 together. 2 consists in a consist.
It sounds consisting to me.
Yeah, exactly. So 250, and that one will run backwards compared to the other one. All right, so now he's going to see it, all 4 of them. Oh, the couplers didn't. There, that's perfect proof right there. The couplers didn't join. They're actually, well, that one is, oh, I got momentum set on one and not on the other, so that's what's doing there. But otherwise, you can see they'll run pretty good together. And I could actually take all 4 of those now and connect them to the other 4 behind them that you're going to see as they move out. And those would also run just as well together with them, because they're all within a mile an hour of each other at any given speed step out of the 28 speed steps.
That's great. I've learned something.
But you
So this
use
is
the speedometer to check the speed on each one to do that match.
right. So I'll go get the speedometer and show you that real quick here.
Ralph Rossetti's got up here, Broadway Limited made a great device for changing local addresses to CVs. It goes for about $70 US. Nice looking ductwork.
So what is that called? A HO speedometer or
No,
No, it's-
AccuTrack.
AccuTrack? Okay.
They'll do HO, N scale. Will it do S, Chris?
I could be wrong, but I think it's just HO and EN.
N scale.
I think it's just HO and EN.
No,
I know
it
they
do.
make it.
Yeah.
HONTT scale,
Oh, okay.
and they
Anything
make a
smaller
bigger
than,
one for S and O gauge.
Oh, okay. I hadn't seen that one yet.
13.
At yard speeds, it's a ride up.
Now you're doing 20.
Oh, somebody's getting fired today.
Well, he might as well make it good. I'm sure he's going to highball it through there now. $25. That's only 2 engines. Well, they came apart.
Those KDs, get these sergeant engineers, I never come apart, even if you want them to.
No, I think he broke them apart intentionally so that you could see they
You
still
see the difference. Yeah.
run about the same speed.
Sure.
Do any of you guys know how to turn off the automatic brakes on the Proto 2000 DCC ready locomotives?
That sound squeal setting?
You know, like when it goes down the incline, it will apply the brakes. It'll slow it down and speed up, slow it down.
Oh, that's back EMF that's causing that. With Decoder Pro or JMRI, you can either just disable back EMF, or you can set the back EMF adjustment so that you can make back EMF more or less sensitive. But it's not hard.
All right, now how do you do it with being DC?
Oh, in DC? Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know that you can in DC. In DCC you can real easy, but I don't know that you can in DC.
There's no way
You
to
can try.
There's no jumper I can put on there to disable it.
No. There's no jumpers or anything. It's all programmed in DCC. Maybe, I don't know this, but maybe if you took your locomotive to local hobby shop or to somebody's layout that had DCC and you programmed the locomotive with the correct back EMF settings, it might run correctly on DC then, but my opinion is it probably would not. I don't think you could fix that. You could rip the decoder out of it and make it dedicated DC, which is probably your best bet, because from all I hear, and I don't know this to be true, but I've said that should be fine a lot, and I've been corrected a lot. So I'm going to take how many people corrected me on this and assume it's somewhat true, is that eventually that decoder is going to fry because you are running it on DC. I've heard that a lot.
Okay. Yeah, I knock on wood, I haven't had any problems with my DCC ready trains.
I haven't either. I run mine on DC for a while too, but I've said it should work fine, and on here, and a bunch of people have said, oh, it's just a matter of time. They've sure heard a lot of horror stories of decoders frying on DC, but I don't personally have any experience with that happening, so I'm just going off what people say.
Yeah, I haven't had any either, and I don't have any DCC trains. I have some DCC ready trains. I don't have decoders in any of my trains. This is something that's built into the board itself.
Yeah. I don't.
There's
I don't
no
think
decoder in any of my trains.
Okay. Damn.
It cannot be adjusted. It's built on the board. If you want to go to DCC, you would have to remove that board and replace it with a DCC decoder.
You could rewire it and get rid of that board. Just direct wire it, I guess.
Go direct.
Go direct is my best option.
You could do that, and that sure would eliminate any slowing down and speeding up. It would make it as dumb as, it would make it a dumb system. 2 wires from the track to the motor,
Right. All right, I didn't know, sometimes there's jumpers that you can, bypass and disable, and I wasn't sure.
Used to be a lot of jumpers on stuff, but anymore you don't see that much. Most things are software configured.
All my stuff's probably, I don't have any brand new stuff. All my stuff is, I would say late 90s, early 2000s. I don't have any new stuff. I got when DCC was first coming out.
Yeah. And your mileage may vary. Pop the shell. I've never seen any settings that were changeable on those. I mean, even back in years ago, I don't remember.
Right. And I just figured I'd ask. Okay, it's only two of them. It's the C liners and the F units are the only two that do it. All my other Proto 2000s don't do it.
Huh.
Just the C liners and the F units. And all my other trains, all my other Pro 2000s look, like they had the same circuitry.
Yeah, they say board on them, but they're probably configured differently from Lifelike. But I don't know. I mean, you take it apart, your mileage may vary. You may see something different. But I've been inside of those Proto 2000s from back in the early 90s when they first came out, and I don't remember ever seeing a jumper in there.
Okay. Yeah, I got stuff from the 50s. I got stuff from the 60s, the 70s, all the way up till early 2000s. It's so hard to find DC stuff nowadays.
Oh yeah, I can't. That's one thing I say. It's been a while since I have a lot of experience with DC. I mean, I was trained as an electrical engineer, so I understand all the concepts. And I built complicated layouts on DC. But boy, I wouldn't do it again. I love DCC, but it's not. There's still benefits to DC, especially for small layouts and for shelf layouts and micro layouts and stuff. I still see, some benefit in DC. I don't think it's all DCC or not. I think there are some perks to DC. Just for any kind of layout I like DCC better. It's just easier.
Yeah, DCC is definitely easier in a large layout.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't. Can you? I don't know. I don't know how to hold that up. Can you? There you go. You see that?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That's my main control panel. 20
power packs.
20 transformers. If you guys could
see, this is what I was saying, Johnny. I said I have to give him credit for really good work, but I also have to say somebody should take a screenshot. And if anybody ever tells you they want to do DC, show them this.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a pretty nice setup.
Absolutely. Like I said, I have to give him credit for the quality of the work. It's first rate. It's done well, and it's a nice layout. But
there's one of the. No, that's for my 1 yard.
But boy, that scared most people off. Heck, I'm an electrical engineer, and it's. But excuse me, and I'd hate to have to find a problem with it.
Yeah, it's not. It's you know what? It's not for everybody, man. It's not for everybody. And if it wasn't for my grandfather, I wouldn't be in this to begin with. So it's more connection with my grandpa than the hobby itself. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Good stuff.
Actually, I have more fun on a DC setup like that than I would with the DCC. It's just so much more that you have to do. It just makes it like you're doing something instead of just sitting there with a handheld throttle,
Well, it depends on what you want to focus on. So if you're building operational railroads where you're doing switch lists and car cards and speeding up, slowing down, reporting in at stations, doing all that operation, DCC is a focus on you running the train. DC, you're running the track. And in electrical, in a pure theory standpoint, or in a way it feels when you're running it, you have to make sure you have the right power at the right voltage, the right track at the right time. With DCC, you just think about running the train. But, I mean, ultimately, it looks the same to somebody looking on. And there are reasons that DCC excels. or DC excels. But to me, DCC feels more like an engineer. DCC feels more like a dispatcher of an automated rail system.
Yeah, it is more prototypical for at least my railroad because it's manual block territory railroading.
Yeah, it works for that too. Yep.
All
But
right,
you're
now-
treating the dispatcher as the god in the situation. Dispatcher has absolute authority and control, whereas with DCC, it's more the engineer. So, I mean, one's not better than the other. It's just two different viewpoints.
All right. Explain this to me. I don't understand because I don't know a lot about DCC. I know a little bit, but you have that one controller in your hand. So theoretically, you can only control one train at a time. So you have to program one train and then go to the next train if you only have one controller. Correct?
No, you could. Okay, so there's a couple options when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah,
Some of the physical controllers like Digitrax have two knobs at the top, and you can select two and control them interchangeably. Also, on my iPhone app, it has two sliders. I could run two trains at one time, so I run my helpers independently, and I run one over here and the helper over here, and I run them both at the same time with two thumbs. Also, most of the throttles have a replay or a memory function, much like your TV remote does, where you can swap back and forth, and it'll let you cycle through a series. So if you had 4 trains running, you could hit the cycle button, turn the speed up a little bit, hit the cycle button to the next locomotive or train, turn it up a little bit, hit the cycle button on the next one, turn it down a little bit. You can cycle through a series. It is not the same as standing in front of your control panel and just reaching down and hitting knobs, though. I will say that's an experience you lose, but you can control multiple.
Okay. Yeah, like realistically, I can control 4 trains on my main line, and if I had 2 people in the yard, they could control 1 train in each yard. So with 3 people, we could control, we could run 6 to 7 trains at once.
Long as you're not tired, otherwise you end up with an Addams family kind of thing. But
now with the NCE cab, one person can control up to 6 trains.
Okay. And if I had more track, if I had more day, I only got 200, and my main line is 3.4 miles long. So I could technically put 6, 7 trains on the main line, but I think you're asking for trouble trying to do that many.
Oh yeah.
They make track every day, brother. You did. I mean, you got a big layout there. It surely looks like you need to be building onto it. I'm sure that's a necessity, but I think that's something all of us model railroaders suffer from.
Not enough room.
Yeah. Now you got to remember when I took this down my grandpa's and brought it here, that it's now 285 square feet. My grandpa's house, it was 570 square feet. So I actually had to shrink down. This section over here is all original, but the mountain layout I had to considerably downsize to fit it in here.
My whole room is only 225 feet, and I still got to have room for me in it. So, and I take a couple square feet at least. And if Angie keeps cooking pretty good, there'll be an extra square foot loss. So.
Oh, you know what? You guys were talking about cleaning, and I didn't get to jump in there in time. But it's just funny because I happen to be cleaning tonight because I got people coming over tomorrow to look at the track. Now, this isn't a very expensive alternative to what you guys were talking about. And can you guys see it there?
Yep.
Oh yeah, those are awesome.
You know what? I'll tell you what, man. It's it's probably 200. I think it was like $200 for those 2 pieces. But I'll tell you what, man. It's a godsend, especially when you got 3.5 scale miles that you have to track, and that's I'm including all my that's just 2 main lines. That's not including the other 34 lines I got. But
That's the reason I'm thinking about dedicating a trade just to track cleaning, that I could just run it, a few cars behind that little switcher locomotive, run it to the top, run it from the top to the bottom and clean. My total main line, when I get all the levels built, right now I've only got 100, about 100 feet, a little over 100 feet, but it will be 320 feet of single track main line just straight through. So,
Time.
Yes.
I got a question. I saw your cleaning car. I work with a special needs fella. He's got that cleaning car, the tank car.
Yep.
The brass one. I've put fluid in it, but I can't get it to come out. Is there something I did wrong with that?
Yeah, hold on. Let me, I know exactly what you did.
you gotta shake it up.
No.
I don't.
Vapor lock is probably what I did.
Where is it? Okay, here it is. Okay, you see this? You see this one right here?
Yeah. That adjusts how much?
No. This turns the oxygen on and off, the suction on and off to allow air in. This adjusts how much.
Okay.
So what you gotta do is, I don't know if you guys can see. Yeah, you probably can't. But when you turn this up, when you open this up, you open this first, then you adjust this. You want about 1 drop every 3 to 4 seconds.
Okay.
Because if you do any more than that, all you're going to do, and you see the top of this?
Now hold it up.
Oh, sorry. You see
Yeah.
the top of this?
Yeah.
If you see fluid pooling on top of here, you got this open too far.
Okay.
So you just turn this back, close, and then that you want to make sure the top is dry, but the bottom is wet.
Yeah. All
But
right.
if you don't open this, you ain't getting nothing.
But that's where you fill it too from, isn't it?
Yes. When you fill it, you make sure this is closed, and you fill it here.
All right, because that's probably what it is. I got the airflow cut off all the way then.
Yep.
I guess I was assuming they had some kind of way of getting air in there through a little vent hole or something, but,
Yeah, I did the same thing, so don't feel bad.
Okay. Appreciate that.
Johnny, you got to blow on it.
I got people for that. I tell you what, got a couple of comments here. AJ, I got from Varney to Rapido. Got on Meyer, a 50-year-old locomotive that still runs like new. And then Dwight Chrisman, Northern Star Railroads. DC lighted cars get brighter as the power is applied and dimmer with less power. I guess what you could do is put probably a capacitor in there to help keep a charge on the lights as they dim out.
Yeah, you need a couple components, but they make a constant lighting kit we used to use back in the DC days that kept your lighting constant.
That's what I've thought about doing, is what you just said on my passenger cars.
Yep.
I did that with 2 of my cabooses and put lights in the back of the caboose, and the capacitor powers the LEDs on the back of the caboose.
Yeah. So you run DC, but you got LED lights.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, just put LEDs in AC in my Lionel units, AC.
Yeah.
You're gonna need a resistor on that. You gotta drop your voltage down. Your LEDs will run at 1.5 to 3 volts. Any more than that, you'll burn them out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got 4 for all my lighting, because I have LEDs. I got incandescent. I run a 3-volt system, a 4.5 volt system, a 6-volt system, and a 12-volt system for all my lighting.
I got somebody sawing.
Oh, hang on. Let me go get over there.
Somebody was talking about using the pickaxe before. I use pickaxe for all control lights for signals on the layout.
Yeah, that's what Barry did a show on those recently, and Newcastle was talking about using that. There's a guy who's built a Bluetooth receiver into a pickaxe to drop in a locomotive. Pickaxes are really good one if you wanted a standalone system. They're cheap and very controllable. I've opted to go with Arduino because I want to hook it to my DCC system so that Fast Clock can tell building lights when to come on or off. But I am a fan of the pickaxe. It's a really nice controller for like $3.
Yep. I use Arduino for controlling servos for another purpose.
Yeah, man. Yep, that's what I'm doing. All my turnouts and all my signals are all with Arduino. And I wasn't sure I was going to use it for building lighting, but I've now opted to spend a few dollars more and put Arduinos in because of the additional control. They're more complicated, etc. But
don't you hate when it does that, Chris? Put screw in and panel raises up. No, hit the other button. Hit the other button. No, you're still muted. Oh, yeah, you got muted at the computer.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. No, you just hit the button again.
Hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I hit a screw underneath it that was in the joist and it lifted the whole thing up.
Yeah. That's the good thing about the headsets, Chris. Now you don't have to go back to a computer and mute yourself when you're using a drill. You just reach up and hit the button on your ear.
Well, I was having trouble before. It wasn't coming back on way back when he was talking about the problem with his Proto 2000 locomotives. And I was trying to ask if he had did they have the quantum dual mode decoders, the QSI?
No, I think these were, Tom said they were just DCC ready. Yeah, so it didn't have a decoder in it. It just had the boards so you could plug a decoder in.
Because some of those with the DC sound, are still programmable even in DC without, they'll leave the dual mode ones, they call them DC and DCC.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't have sound, it's probably not one of those.
No, let me tell you guys a little something about the DCC DC trains. They will work. A DCC train will work on DC as long as you're running on one circuit. If you're running on multiple circuits like I am on 20, I have 20 transformers. Once you cross from one transformer to another, the train will stop, reset, and start up again.
Yeah.
Wow, that sucks.
Yeah, that's the same thing as like in DCC, if you short out and you're all on the same circuit, it'll restart too. Yeah, it's a restart signal back to the decoder board.
Going across switch gaps.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, how do you guys, a layout like mine that, has, 34 different tracks. Do you have one transformer powering the whole thing?
No, you'll have a command module in DCC, and then you'll have what's called power boosters. They talk back to each other through what's called a loco net, kind of like a telephone line or whatever that's hooked between them. But the power boosters, all they do is supply power to areas of the track that you've designated as a power district. And the command module, you always have just one command module.
Yeah, that's what I have on my layout. One command module and 3 boosters.
Yeah.
4 districts.
The boosters just give you the power that you need to keep the train running when it gets further away from the command module and out of its power range.
Well, the signal, the DCC signal from the command station is too weak to do anything. So you need the boosters to, just like an amplifier on your stereo. You know, a true stereo, the signal is so weak you wouldn't hear much. So you put a big amplifier on there to amplify so that you can hear it. And it's the same thing with DCC. The difference between DCC and DC is that the voltage is always full on the rails. You know, like if you take your transformer in DC, you turn it off at 0
Turn it all
volts.
the way up.
Turn it all the way up, it's 14 volts. So turn it up halfway, it's 7 volts. Well, on DCC, it's always 14 volts. But that signal from the command station tells the decoder how many volts to apply to that locomotive out of the 14 that's on the track at any given time.
The newer transformers only go up to 14 volts.
I'm just using that as a instance because that's what DCC likes to use. You know, the DC ones can go, I don't know, all the way up to 16 or better volts, I think, from the ones I used to use.
Yeah, I got the old Train Masters, and if my memory is correct, I believe I can go up to 18 volts.
Yeah, that very well could be.
Yeah, I brought it to 18 volts, 5 amps on my system because my power transformer is separate from my DCC command station. It's not a single unit; they're two. So I provided 18 volts, but I could put it on 7 or 8 volts because the speed limit on this district is 25 mile an hour, and I just don't run trains too fast unless I'm trying to show Angie how cool they are.
All right, so what happens if you have, like you guys were talking earlier, and you had it set at, you were talking about 6 being half speed or something like that, and you didn't have it set at 14 volts, you only had it set at 7 volts. What would the train do in that case?
It would go slower.
Yeah, its top speed is just restricted. You can only the locomotive can only think of it as where your transformer is in front of your control panel. On a DCC system, that transformer is effectively inside the locomotive, and you're telling the knob what to do by sending it a digital control signal over the track.
Right, I totally get that, but I'm telling it to run at half speed. But when it gets to this zone, the zone only has 7 volts instead of 14 volts. Will it compensate for the lower voltage and boost the speed up? Or will
No, it runs slower and eventually it'll actually stop. That's why you use the boosters to keep your voltage up constant throughout the whole rail system.
Yeah, boosters provide amps. Ideally, you want to keep the voltage constant, whatever it is. You could run 7 volts, and if you had 7 volts on the lane, so if you had 14 volts in one district and 7 volts in another, and your locomotive was running at a quarter speed and it was sipping 3.5 volts off the line, if it goes across and hits that 7 volts, it'll just keep right on trucking. But if you're running 14 volts on one and 7 on the next, and you're running along at 3/4 speed, just, an Amtrak clipping along at 80 miles an hour, and you're pulling 11 volts off the track, when you hit that 7 volts, it's going to drop down in speed. It can only, because that's the maximum amount of power that's there.
Well, it should theoretically drop no matter what speed you are, because the speed step is telling it how much, or the CV is telling it how much of the voltage basically to use. It's using half of the wave. If the wave is only 7 volts, it'll give it 3.5 volts.
Well, I agree. That's partially, there is some effect, but a speed step setting is how many volts, not what percentage of your voltage.
Well, there's 200. The value of, say, CV2 is anything from 0 to 255, with 255 being 100% of voltage, and
but it's set on a base
127 being half of the voltage and 0 being none of the voltage.
Well, it's set on an expectation. So while it's saying the percentage in JMRI or whatever, it's actually delivering a particular voltage to the locomotive at that speed step. It's saying provide this much voltage. Now, here's a funny thing about DCC that we've argued about on here. Is it AC or DC? This kind of comes back to that question.
Well, it's a square sine wave.
Yeah, it's not as simple as just putting 7 volts at half speed and 3.5 volts at a quarter speed, because it's doing PWM, pulse width modulation. Instead of running that engine at 3.5 volts, it's pulsing. And when you're running at a slower speed, it's pulsing slower. And when you run at a higher speed, it's pulsing faster. So there's not a direct relationship. My only suggestion is I'd like to see if this worked, but because I actually run mine when I first set this DCC up, I run it at 5 volts for a few minutes until I hooked my pack up to it, because I could run it off the USB of my computer, and I had 5 volts available, and it would run around the layout just fine, but only at 15 miles an hour. I had to give it a little more power, but my suspicion is it would probably do that, because ultimately the PWM is going to be the same regardless of what voltage is there, 5 or otherwise. You just need that voltage so that it can get more, so that the amps have something to carry on. Voltage carries amps. So if the voltage isn't there, you can't put enough amps into it to crank the speed up.
Let me jump in real quick. Dwight's gotten a little confused on terminology. Which
Understood.
Anyway.
It's not an easy subject.
Anyway, I won't make that comment. Dwight be knocking on my door. His comment is the word transformer the correct term for DCC power pack? No, it's not.
No.
Transformer is DC. When you go to DCC, you have a command module or power boosters.
That's branding terminology.
Yeah.
The reality is you're adapting AC power from your wall to DC. So it's more of a rectifier. Electrically, it's a rectifier. It's turning AC into DC power. Now, what your command station does is take that straight flat DC at 18 or 16 or whatever volts and sending that out on the line, but it's sending a digital sine wave, a square wave over it, telling the locomotive what to do. Then there's another digital wave that comes out of the decoder to the locomotive, and that digital wave is the pulse width modulation, where it is DC, but it's DC that's on and off, on and off.
Ralph Rossetti
hold
says...
Hold on, before you move on here.
All right.
If it's going from AC to DC or DCC, you're still transforming the AC into a DC current, are you not?
Not really.
Not really.
DC.
So, what is DC?
DC comes from AC through a variable transformer. Okay, the knob on there is actually a potentiometer that varies the amount of voltage coming through the DC side.
By using a wiper. By using a wiper on a coil, that's what makes it a transformer. The coil and the wiper.
Now, DCC, all that does is take the AC and run it into a
bridge rectifier.
A bridge rectifier to change it to DC. It's not variable. It's not variable. It goes directly to the track at the full DC. You actually use the decoders in the engines for your variable.
Okay. All right.
One thing is, I think we're kind of getting everybody's thinking DCC is the voltage. DCC stands for Digital Command Control.
Right.
Correct.
So you're either using DC or AC in the process.
Well,
can you use AC?
Can you use
AC is your wall plug. Your house current.
AC does this. The problem, and there's 2 systems in the DCC system, or 3 power types. The AC coming out of the wall, but let's forget that. There's the signal going over the track work. That is the DCC. That's digital command control. It is DC. In every way, it is DC, except that there's a carrier wave on it that is also sending a low voltage digital square wave, straight square wave. Where the question about AC versus DC really comes in is, what does the motor inside the locomotive get between the decoder and the motor? That's a whole separate system. That's not sending a digital signal. It's an analog voltage signal. But what they found, the very first decoders 25 years ago gave it variable DC. But they found that they could make these CAN motors run much better, especially at low power, and be much quieter if they would try to run them at 1 volt, but they would run them at 5 volts, but pulse the 5 volts causing the motor to kind of do this, but the flywheel and everything smooths it all out. So there's a third type of signal that's going through there, and it's called PWM, or pulse width modulation. It is closer to AC than DC, but in the strictest definitions of the word, it is variable DC. It's DC, but it's not a sine wave.
Okay.
That gets deep, though. Boy, we can get deep on this stuff.
I know.
Yeah, I was going to say, Pulse has been around for a long, long, long time.
Oh, yes.
Andy,
Sir.
go read the chat. Ralph's got a couple comments there, so I'll just let you read those. We'll sort through them later.
I think Ralph left.
Hey, Ron Boyce. Ron's down in Australia. His comment is, wow, now I lost. Too technical for me. Now I'm lost. It's too technical for me, LOL.
You don't have to worry about all these details. These companies have figured all this out for you. But if you do care about it, you can get it out of the weeds with it, but you don't have to.
Yeah. But
it's not required, that's for sure.
It's just geeks being geeks, man. You don't need to know all this.
Well, I tell you what, I want to change subject real quick. Here we go. Here comes Mr. JD.
Hello, gentlemen.
How you doing?
Hey, JD.
All right.
Hi, JD.
Long time no see.
Yeah, I know. I saw you on a Tuesday one.
Ah, cool.
Yeah, talk about Tuesday. Got a question for everybody. If you didn't see Tuesday night's show, it's basically more about printing your buildings out on paper and building them that way. Had a fellow named Ed Traxler that does a lot of that, and he has got some really great looking buildings. Of course, he adds a little bit extra, tends to take a little strip wood and replace the paper with strip wood. But any of y'all tried doing the paper type buildings?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, what kind of luck you had with it?
It comes out okay. It's like I tried on the Wednesday nights when I was on there earlier to always try and add like rooftop stuff, fire escapes, different windows, titchy windows, stuff like that. Seal it with a sealer of some type to stop it from fading. Adding like the wood like he did. The buildings will come out really nice. I mean, from a distance, you can't really tell. Brick looks like brick. Siding looks like siding. You'd have to really get on top of it to see the difference. Photogenically, they look good.
I do with cardstock buildings too, though I don't actually make them in the software. I just print out the materials and then put them together with glue. I don't actually stick them all in there with the software. Print them out individually and build them like a kit, kind of, or whatever. Building on styrene.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about, Newcastle. You print them out, you cut out the walls, and then you print them. JD has got one up right now that he's showing off, make it full screen.
I designed this in Visio a while back. I just need to figure out the final sizes of the windows and the doors based on Tichy.
Yeah, the biggest problem I found with paper is the lack of depth. If you print out the building, cut out the windows, put real windows in there on the inside, cut out the doors, put real doors on the outside, and give it some depth, they'll look a lot more realistic than if you.
And I think that's what Ed showed us on Tuesday night, and also in the last EMAG, the photo essay put together for him. I mean, he showed us the opportunity to give it that depth and trick the eye. And I think, I think one of his points was the eye expects detail, but it fills it in just as much by seeing some details like strip wood on the framing, for example.
Yeah.
Did I get that right,
I got
Johnny? I watched the video of the recording, so he looked pretty good stuff, didn't it?
Yeah, he's. I mean, like he said, it's not something you want to put, say, 20 inches or closer to the viewer. It's something that you do want to have kind of further back, and maybe intermix it with other buildings, so you really don't pay a lot of attention to it not being that real.
Now, here's something interesting, Johnny. Ed had mentioned about those little notches that he cut out. In my design, what I've done is made these tabs right here. I don't know if you can see that little extra stick out tabs.
Yeah.
And that you could fold over and glue inwards.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's designed to scale of 187. It's not something that I type. I just put the scale box in it, and it shows what the scale set at for the drawing.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
I got the program, one program I use up. I think you can see it. I like just printing them separate on cardstock, so you can build like a building right in the software. I don't like doing that. I just print it out. That's what I was talking about earlier. See?
Oh, okay.
That's what I was talking about. Instead, I print it out individually and then glue them on.
Try and get that.
Model Builders.
Newcastle, where do you get that software from?
I forget the website. I think you just look it up.
Model Builders. Yeah, if you just search Model Builders. Also, we have a video on that. Miles Hale did an hour and a half or whatever on paper structures, gluing them to foam core, gluing them to wood, and using that Model Builder software to get the textures.
Right here, Model Builder software. It's this model train software. I'm not the biggest fan with the program. It's good enough. Yeah.
$45 isn't bad for that.
I would actually. I don't like. They don't really have any good options. I like their brick program. It's a separate program for it too. It's called the Brickyard. It's I think it's like $10 extra or something. I definitely like the Brickyard. It has better brick design than the actual just the Model Builders. If you got
what's been really good for me to use the brick patterns off of is my kids' Disney software.
Yeah.
It has brick patterns in it, and you can mix and match them. I'll show you a sample real quick of what I've used it for. This is something made out of cardboard. Made it years ago.
Back up just a little bit.
So, and this brick pattern is just regular printer paper printed with that brick pattern from the Disney software.
All right, now did you recess that part on the sides there, the ovals?
Yeah, that's actually recessed. That's actually a separate edging applied on the inside here. A little strip cut out.
Okay. Yeah. But JD, that's paper, right?
Yeah, that's paper.
Okay. Because I ordered, I was talking to Andy about it, and I showed him a piece where the bricks are printed on embossed paper.
Yeah, and
the bricks really look like 3D.
And they look incredible, even if just pictures and cameras of it. I got that. I got to order some of that stuff.
I mean, look at this from far away. There's 2 chimneys on top and everything that I just put a little 2 pieces of straws painted.
What are you using inside of that?
Hollow.
Yeah, Bobby, did you build it on cardstock foam?
Oh yeah. You know what? From my shirts, dress shirts, cardboard.
Okay. I've used I forget what the stuff's called. I forget. Those
Here, you can take a look inside. That's just plain cardboard.
Yeah. You need some kind. What I'm saying, what I was talking about was the question why is it different people use different things. You have to have support behind that cardstock.
Yeah, and you can see it's warped a little over the years.
Yeah, foam core is the ticket.
Yep, that's
I
it.
also got some shirt box cardboard that's quite a bit thicker. It's about a 16th inch. So I've got some shirt box cardboard like what JD's got. It's like a 32nd.
Yeah, this is pretty thick. I mean, you know, you got to buy some pretty nice dress shirts to get this cardboard.
Yeah, that's where this come from too. It's come out of when I had my suit dry cleaned. They put this in it. It's rigid, and it makes great floors for structures. But for building walls out, foam core is.
I got an echo. I'm hearing an echo. And I've muted myself a couple times to test that it's not me.
I actually used wood, and put the I don't have any paper structures, but I have some paper backgrounds, and I actually used some 1/8 inch wood, like you would get at a craft store, and it warps a lot less than cardboard.
Yeah, and you know, I think foam core and all of these, you know, are a little bit more rigid than cardboard. Like for example, this thing didn't warp as much, but it's got a shorter, it's got a smaller, tighter structure to it, so there's no opportunity for it to warp.
Yeah.
And you can see I did an extra layer on top here just to get a 3D dimension. And I've built other structures like that.
Yeah, it sounds like somebody's got radio on.
It's just feeding back through.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I don't know if you.
Down a little bit.
There you go.
Yeah.
Can you guys see that?
Yep.
That's about 5 years old right there, and it's still pretty straight.
Yeah, that's on wood.
Can you guys see that?
Is it wood or foam core?
5 years old right there, and it's still pretty straight.
That
Sounds
echo
like some-
here is a delay. It sounds like somebody has the YouTube channel running
That's. I was just gonna say, it sounds like the YouTube channel delay.
because there's a delay of a few seconds.
Yeah. Tell you what, Tom, mute your mic for a second. Okay, just now quit. I don't hear it. Of course, nobody's talking either, so.
Yeah, I don't hear it anymore after he muted either.
I don't think it's an echo because of the delay. Somebody's got the YouTube channel running at a
Yeah,
day.
I hit, you know, mute on my mic and thinking it might be coming through because I got a new microphone. Andy,
You
I
got
got the
blue?
buddy.
You get a blue?
I got the blue Yeti midnight blue color.
Oh, I love the blue one. I love my Yeti, but the blue ones.
Hey,
It's not coming
Josh.
from me, is it?
Yeah, I'm looking. Yeah, it's on me.
Yeah. Well, if you would mute your mic, Josh, 'cause every time you move, it gives us a hard scrubbing sound. Thank you. Okay.
Time warp. It's you know, I've commented on your post and you've commented on my post before, but I don't know if we've ever been introduced. I'm JD Logging Locos, produced the EMAG,
Oh yeah, no, we never introduced, man.
and also known as Yabba Dabba Doo Flintstone.
Logging logos, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I've commented a couple of yours. You've commented a couple of mine. This is only the second time I've ever done one of these.
Yeah, time. The
Video.
bottom.
Oh, sorry, brother.
Thank you. I know it's hard.
Oh shucks, that was just ginger ale, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, root beer.
Root beer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
finally get to meet you, you know, on the camera.
summertime, I really don't mess around with this. I don't even come down here. I'm out on my motorcycle, or I'm on the boat, or I'm in the drag car. So now that the weather's turning, now I start getting back into it. Like I just painted all of my. I can show you guys. I just painted all of the handrails on all my cabooses.
Nice.
I don't know if you guys can see it or not.
Oh
Yeah, the yellow
yeah.
color or the white, right? It's like kind of yellow or white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's stuff like that. I still have a lot of work to do. Like this whole section over here, there's, you know, I have a whole mountain to build. You know, I got the mountain over there done, but I still need to do a lot. And I go back and forth. I go from, you know, working on a new section to adding detail. Like I just added a parade on Main Street, which I think you've commented on. And
Yeah. But you know, you ought to. I encourage you to post, and everyone, you know, to post more stuff on the Google Plus page and the Facebook page, and you know, and even send us some content for the EMAG. You know.
yeah, the Google Plus is kind of getting disappointing, man. It's like, yeah, I like Google Plus so much better than Facebook. I hate Facebook. I hate it.
Me too. But Google Plus is Google's third effort. They've tried 3 times. Cut. There was one before that. They haven't been able to supplant Facebook. If anybody's going to supplant Facebook, it's going to be Snapchat. But for us, I mean, I still do more on Facebook, even though I hate it. But for us, G Plus is great because it integrates with YouTube so well.
Yeah.
Well, I asked a question on G Plus and I still haven't got any answer. So basically, those were the questions I asked you, Andy, and you answered them all. And was it on Tuesday? No, on was it on Monday?
I don't know.
That's where, you know, the Hangouts fill in.
The what?
So that's where the Hangouts fill in the gap.
Yeah, but still, I'm surprised that nobody even answered my questions. There was maybe 4 or 5 of them. That was
but if
weird.
you put them on Facebook, if you put them on any of the Facebook railroad communities, there is much more activity there.
Yeah.
I follow it better. Facebook has, for all the things I don't like about them, they have wrote an app for iPhone and Android called Facebook Groups. It's just
My timekeepers just give me a time check.
oh yeah.
Yeah. But we kind of got started a few minutes late, so I was going to let it run over a few minutes just to, you know, give everybody the full, their full money's worth.
What time zone are you guys in?
Central.
All right, I think everybody just spoke at once.
Central.
I'm on Eastern.
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 I'm on Eastern too, and normally I wouldn't be up this late, but I got tomorrow off, so.
Central.
Time. Where are you
Back
located?
to the that building that that designed on that Visio software. The idea here is to put the texture by using cedar found in cigars on cigar rolls, and cutting that into strips and pasting it to give it that 3D effect, either horizontally or vertically.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's why, you know, no textures were found there.
DeBob's, let's see, the Mancavian president is in Central. That's DeBob's man cave. He likes to cut up. Tell you what, we're fixing to wind up. I got a question here from Michael for Andy. You close by?
Yeah.
All right, real quick. That's starting to look really good there, Phil. Been kind of watching you paint your cows and the horses. But anyway, Andy, Michael has got up here. Andy, how are you going to build your peninsula out of wood and then foam on top?
Yeah, actually, I just wrote a response to it because I didn't think we were gonna get to it. But
Okay.
but just to clarify, I can't do that many too many characters. I know that's gonna shock everybody that this thing wouldn't let me be as wordy as I am. So yeah, it's all foam around the walls, but I will have to. There's no getting out of putting a wood substructure under the peninsula. But all I need is a flat structure with some foam on top. But I'm gonna put a flat substructure, probably made out of hollow core doors, because that is a dirt cheap way to get a very solid, square, true frame. I've got all the woodworking tools, nail gun, you know, a really nice Hitachi, you know, compound miter saw. But
Andy with a nail gun.
Huh?
Dangerous.
Andy with a nail gun.
I'm a carpenter's son, brother. I ran a construction company for years. I could work a nail gun. You just don't want to come around. I'll shoot you in the butt with the thing. But
Yeah.
you gotta have a little. You gotta have a little wood if it's freestanding. I cheated and did foam everywhere. But my original intent was I would have to come back and laminate Luan to the bottom of it or something. But I just haven't found a reason to. Same thing with my DCC. I intended to buy an NCE system. I love those. I just haven't found a reason to.
Yeah. Got Arduino instead.
And I started with that Sprague. The Sprague was fine. But that's a $130 device. And I heard this great idea of being able to do it for $13. And I was like, well, I've got a DCC, but let's just see what this is made of. Let's see if this is as cool as I think it'll be. And I mostly done it because I thought everybody in the community would glean some value from the idea that you could have DCC for $13. So, but it worked so doggone good that I sold my Sprague on eBay. No, on Facebook Model Railroad Group.
Hey, you guys know, I'm looking for some like chicken wire that I can mold some mountains and then put some plaster over the top of it. But you go like Michael's or you go to Joanne Fabric, and it's very, very, very expensive.
You got to buy chicken wire at like Lowe's or Menards or Home Depot. But what I'm going to use on my peninsula is I'm going to turn the supports vertically, styrofoam supports or something vertically, or you can use plywood or foam core even. I probably will use some foam core supports. And then I'm going to coat it in quilt matting. It's an inch thick, give or take, coated in quilt matting. It gives you some texture. It automatically looks like, you know, that it has some texture to it. You could soak that with plaster, or you could cover it in Sculptamold, or I'm going to use a very thin mixture of scenery goop, which is basically latex paint. So, and it'll harden up, but it immediately gives you texture, and it's cheap as dirt. You could buy a big old bag of the stuff for $4. And Stephen did it. No, not Stephen did it. The guy that does Colorado Joint Line. If you just YouTube Colorado Joint Line and look at what's his name? He's been on here.
Kevin?
Yeah, Kevin. Yeah, from Colorado Joint Line. He did a little thing on using that quilt matting, and I think that's just a killer way to get quick scenery. And when I build the new house in a few years and have that really big basement to cover, I'm just going to throw quilt matting down because. And what Newcastle is showing right there on screen, that's how I'm going to do my underline. That's going to do how I'm going to do my support with 3/4 styrofoam as vertical silhouettes.
That's how I'm going to be doing on my layout. This is another guy's layout in the MRA division. I'm going to do. We just bought a not around property, and there were storm windows in there. We're using the screens for there, and I'm going to put on there. So
okay.
Yeah, I'm actually. Another thing is I am ripping out a part of probably next year. I'll be ripping out part of my chicken, the fence outside it for the chicken coop, because it's just it's been there for years. It's starting to fall down.
But screen works fine, but a lot of screen rusts.
Now, another thing you could do, Tom, you see Newcastle's picture. You see those vertical pieces under that screen wire? You can cut cardboard strips, say 3/4, 1 inch wide, and run them across there. Just staple them in, and
or hot glue.
Or you can hot glue them, yeah.
Hot glue them, and that gives you a base. You can put your plaster cloth on or paper towels soaked in plaster.
Even doing that method right there, you still need to do a little bit of cardboard because there's some parts of it to get the right shape. Cardboard lathing strips are almost a requirement, but
yeah,
you could buy that right there is one sheet of 3/4 styrofoam. That's $8 to build that mountain with, and quilt matting or something would be $4 more, and Yeah, I want to pay. You could have an entire mountain and you'd have $15 in it.
This is
Not
the
only
guy-
that, you could throw in there in the frame in there. You could throw crushed up newspaper to give it the depth.
You can't.
This-
It raw.
Plastic bags.
All my mountains that I have now are all newspaper and cloth. So
Yeah, I used to use bed sheets dipped in plaster. The problem with those is longevity. Is that cloth tends to rot over time or degrade over time. That's also my problem with newspaper. Is that it gets wet in the process. If you put newspaper inside there, it gets wet in the process. And if you have even a damp basement or something, if it gets wet, it will have a tendency to mold. And since I got that
Right.
infection some years ago with my sinuses, I've been really reluctant to anything that would allow mold to.
Well, the other thing I suggested was plastic bags, crushed up plastic bags, rolled up.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Also, I'm also gonna try what Andy's doing and Jim's doing, that ground goop.
Oh, I love it. Here, I just made a new vat of it, but I found the wrong thing of paint, and so it's slightly different because apparently this is the brown color my wife wanted for the basement. But I just made a whole new vat of this stuff, and I had about this much in here a couple days ago when I started on this. I done this little bit of a river basin. I started shaping it and putting some goop on it. It had been in there for 7 or 8 months, and it was just as moist as that stuff is today. And I put a cap full of Lysol in it so it will not mold or anything. It's paper mache and latex paint. So, and I have built 20, 15, 30, 45 feet around my rooms of mountains, 45 feet. And I'm on my 3rd gallon of paint, $10 paint from Walmart. And I have used a half a bag of vermiculite that was $8. This is the most expensive part to sell you, Clay. Look how much I've still got that much left. This is a $25 bag that you can use a 40% coupon on and get for $15. And I've used a third of that bag on 45 feet.
That's from Michael's, Andy.
Yeah, or Hobby Lobby. Yep.
Hobby Lobby, Michael. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
40%. Yeah.
Same thing. $25. Use that, and even if you don't use a discount, $45 or $25. And I'm serious. I've used a third of that, and I've covered a 2-foot wide shelf all the way around the roof, 45 feet around the roof. All of that is covered in that cedary goop. Every bit of it's covered everywhere. And in some places, it's even quite big. So.
yeah, the plaster cloth's not expensive. You buy it in the large roll.
Yes.
You buy it in a little roll in Joint Fabric or Michael's, it's very expensive. But if you buy the full roll, it's cheap, man.
Yeah. And I'm not against using plaster cloth. Plaster's just dirty. And my biggest complaint with plaster is if you decide you want to change something and you go to town with it, don't tell my wife I got this in here. If you go to town with it with your wife's cheese knife, it makes such a doggone mess. But I can go up there on that cedar and cut into it, and it will come off. And I got.
You're echoing really bad, man.
Well, I muted my mic, so I don't know.
Test. But to each their own. There's nothing wrong with plaster, but majority of layouts are covered in plaster and it works. I don't have any problem with the end result at all. I just have a problem with the process of doing it. It's dirty and messy and hard to adjust. And I was going to do it I was going to do it without anything. I was going to shape the styrofoam and cover it in spackle, or not even cover it, just fill the gaps. But I've done this one module over here, the 3-foot. There's one 3-foot long module right there. It took me 4 days of putting spackle and sanding the doggone thing until my arm was sore. And I said, I'm not doing it this way. So, because I wanted just styrofoam with some spackle. I wanted lightweight, and plaster is heavy. So, I mean, even these rock castings add some weight, and I really want to use the Bragdon foam method for making rocks so I can lower the weight. I may rip that off and put foam rocks eventually, but because there's a cliff line along this river here I got to build on that straight edge. So, but cedary goop don't add nothing to it. I can grab one of these large modules, like one of these modules. This module is like 8 foot long, 4 foot wide on one side, 2 foot wide on the other. And that module might weigh 25 pounds with trees and scenery goop and everything on it. I can pick that module up and carry it through the house.
Yeah, I need something a little more pliable because on the one side of the mountain is just going to be a mountain, and my my mining company is going to go into the mountain. But in the other side of the mountain, I need to make a road for a logging company.
Sure.
And I don't know how I'm going to notch that road out of there. You know what I mean? That's what I'm struggling with right now.
Well, I tell you what, we're kind of running over here, so that is going to be for a good topic on another show. We can bring that one up too. I'll use, if you hadn't noticed, I'll use anything for topics, show topics. But yeah, we are going to have to wind this down.
Time could post that on the Google Plus community, and I'll respond some ideas to that as well, because I have the same issue.
Yeah. All right. So I want to say thank you to everybody. AJ, I know he's gone now. He's got an early day tomorrow, but Dwight, Ralph, Ron in Australia, appreciate you getting here, coming on in. DeBob, President DeBob, excuse me. Mancavian president. Michael, good to see you again. Ralph, glad to see you make it in here. Hopefully somebody's going to start an after show while I'm killing time here. Yeah, Otto, good to see you. I believe we had David in here. Professor, it's always good seeing you too. Michael. Oh, I hate missing people. S&J Railroad S&J was here. Ari was in here with us too. So, all right, let's get over here. I want to say thank you to everybody on the panel. Andy, Chris, Bill from D&H, Mr. Hawks, Jason, Newcastle, Phil, good to see you back here. Time, glad to see you on the show. Like to see you come back again. JD, always a pleasure to see you. And I'll repost your e-bag too after the show here. Pin it back to the top of the community, I mean.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. All righty, let's keep just keep checking in on the YouTubeModelBuilders.com website for all the latest news and info on Tuesday presentations, the e-mag, and the live show schedules. Live show is once every month. Just had one here last Saturday, I think it was. Oh, I done changed calendars, so anyway, today is the 1st, December the 1st. But the live show is the third Saturday of each month. The e-mag is bi-monthly. Comes out every other month. That came out
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks? I was going to say
yeah,
week and
on the
a half.
17th.
Oh, okay, 17th. JD and his crew does a great job on that. We got a fantastic magazine out. It's on Craftsman. And in fact, a few people are posted in there. Edward Traxler, he's kind of the main character on this month, wasn't it?
Well, there's a couple main characters in there. There's Mark Mead, who set off the actual theme for this issue.
Oh, okay.
And then there's also Ron Perry, also addresses an aspect of craftsmanship along with Edward.
Yeah, Ron does good work. People in their phone messages. But anyway, the Tuesday presentations are twice a month. They're on the second and fourth Tuesday of the month. So, and the Thursday general hangouts is, it's every week. You want to go to YouTubeModelBuilders.com, check the schedules for both the Tuesday shows and the live shows and the e-mag. You can also sign up for the e-mag, and you'll get a notification when it comes out. That is a PDF file, so you can download, read at your leisure.
And by the way, Johnny, real quick, I have a great crew that helps. This is 2 years for this e-mag, and amazing crew. Blaine, Mayfield, Jack Hickaway, and Harry Haythorne have really helped out. It's just not me; it's the other guys as well.
Yeah. Now, I knew you had some elves there, or minions, whatever you want to call it. Whatever's politically polite for today. But, yeah, you do have a good crew there for sure.
Good set of editors.
Yeah. Now you made me lose my place.
Sorry.
You don't do that to a bald-headed old man. But anyway, go to YouTubeModelBuilders.com. You can check your schedules for the shows and the eMag when it's coming out. Sign up, get a notification when it comes out. All our shows are at 9 o'clock Central Time, 10 o'clock Eastern. And, hey, never fear. If you got to work, we did have a few people come in now on their lunch breaks because they work second shift and watch the show as much as they can. But we do record these shows, and we post them on our YouTube channel, which is YouTube Model Builders. So you can go back there, and we do put them in separate playlists. Make it a little easier for you to find the show that you're looking for. So go check out the YouTube channel too. You'll find the shows recorded there. So if you missed it, you can go back and watch it. Thank you for participating in tonight's show. With that said, have a good weekend. This is December the 1st, so Christmas is not that far away. We'll catch y'all next week. Have a good one. Bye, y'all.